Janette Thornley is one of a select few female racers licensed to pilot nitro-burning motorcycles, jet fuel. She is a four-time national champion on the Harley Pro Fuel drag racing circuit, and her many honors include the 2016 Female Racer of the Year by Horsepower and Heels. That's not what impressed me about Janette when I met her this past June in York, Pennsylvania at the MidAtlantic Women's Motorcycle Rally. What impressed me about Janette was her ability to step back and redefine the parts of her life that no longer fit. I invite you to lean in and listen as I chat with Janette Thornley. Okay, and Janette, thanks so much for joining me, and I really appreciate it. And I want to talk about or continue our conversation. We had such a fun time at the MidAtlantic Women's Rally in York, Pennsylvania. I plan on going again this next year. Do you plan on going?
You know what? I'm totally open because it was fabulous. I was a newbie, as you know, and I loved it.
Well, I was a newbie too. I'd never been there before. And of course, I did a workshop and you spoke on Friday night, and it was wonderful. I had never met, I went in not knowing anybody, didn't know anybody. And of course, got to meet you and so many cool women. But one thing I wanted to ask you was, I mean, you just get up one morning and said, I think I'll race motorcycles. I mean, really, what's the thought process when you decide to do that?
Well, believe it or not, that is probably one of the hardest questions that I have to answer that I get asked often, because I know, right. So part of me is like, no, I never dreamed of being a drag racer. So that wasn't, as a girl growing up and being influenced by, my father or my brother or my uncles, none of that occurred. So that kind of moment, I'm not sure. I mean, I know where it kind of came from within, because it was bred in me, although I didn't know it because I didn't grow up with my father. But yeah, I think, a lot of women go through transitions where they're like, wake up one day and go, how did I get here? And am I really happy? And maybe sometimes, who am I?
Well, and I talk about that in my book as well. Is I looked around at, I was facing an empty nest. Both my daughters were gone, and I was no longer someone's mom. I'm still their mom, but wasn't on a day-to-day basis. I wasn't someone's wife anymore. You do, and I was in my early 50s, and who am I, and how the heck did I get here?
Yeah.
But some of us don't go drag racing motorcycles down the drag strip, but I just think it's so cool. I just think it's so cool that you do that. And if I'm sitting here today and I say, okay, maybe I'd like to try that. Where can I try that? Where do I start?
Well, I think what's really cool about the sanctions that I've been involved in is it's a very welcoming group that, you can start on a gas bike. I mean, you ride a street bike. I rode a street bike before I started drag racing. I've played around the racetrack on my street bike before.
Oh, okay.
And, so there's like open nights, sometimes where, again, depend. I know. So
this is so silly because
it's hard.
I was watching, I don't know, one of the sport, we were waiting on a NASCAR race to start or something, and they had the motor, and I'm going to forget the girl's name. Shame on me. I'll look it up. But she was racing a road glide around a track. And I looked at my partner, Paul. I said, honey, they do that? He goes, yeah, they do that. She's did that. I said, I think that would be fun. She wasn't drag racing. It was, an oval track. So sure. I guess I've been a little bit ignorant that that I knew it went on. I mean, I knew it went on, and it's like, okay, if anybody wants to do this, they can just do this.
Well, it's funny that you kind of term it that way. I back in the mid 2000s, I actually went as a spectator to the drag strip and was sitting in the stands. It was bike night, Wednesday night bike night up in Wisconsin when I was working for Harley. And I was like, hey, that's a girl. And they were like, yeah, I mean, girls can do it too, so
Yeah.
so, mind you, like 10 or 12 years later, was when I decided to pursue it on a more professional level. And I call it more professional level because nitromethane is considered the pro class, whereas there's a lot of classes where you can use a street bike or a variation of a street bike to run
Oh,
more
okay.
sportsman classes,
Okay.
so yeah, it's kind of funny because who would have thought that being a spectator one day that you're out there, but those of us that are adventure seekers and not afraid to try something new, it's like, hey, if she can, why can't I? So
Absolutely. Well, I know, and I was looking just to refresh my memory. I was looking at your website, and your goal was to become the first woman to win on a Top Fuel Harley class motorcycle. Did you do that?
no,
Okay, that
no.
was 2020, right? And we're in 2021. So this is what it interested me. One of the things that interests me about you when you talked that Friday night is you admitted to this gap. You went out there and you have like 4 world class championships in motorcycle drag racing, and then all of a sudden we come to a screeching halt. Yeah. And that's okay. I think as women, we need to understand that's okay. I had a bad accident in April 2012, and it took me 11 months to get back on a bike. I went into a deep, deep, dark hole, really, where a close friend of mine just recently reminded me of that. And she said, there were several of us who weren't sure you were going to come out of that or not. Well, boom, I came out of it and I wrote a book and I got a new bike, and I, continued to do what I was doing. But how does it happen, and how do we get out of it?
It's interesting you asked me that, and I appreciate one of the reasons why I shared and I try to be so candid like I am is because so many of us struggle more than we're willing to admit. And then what do we do when we are struggling? Because on the outside, I'm Janette. I'm 6 foot tall. I'm a healthy girl. I am admired by many, that I have no faults, no pain, no struggles, and I'm this successful person. And I am all that. But at the same time, I'm also human. And so I got caught up in chasing dreams and goals. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing, because I think we should have them. I think it was a healthy process for me. But that goal of being the first female to win a Wally in the Top Fuel Harley class is something that I was chasing so hard, I lost sight of some of the priorities in life that really are the glue to happiness. And then there was some destructive behavior that it happened with relationships and stuff, because I wasn't thinking straight. I made some bad decisions. So there's a lot between and I'm kind of, I say I'm still recovering a little bit, because what 2020 kind of taught me with the setback that most of us had to take and slow down because of the virus being out there and the demands that were put on all of us, but was to really appreciate life for what it is and me for who I am, not who I think I need to be, or not for chasing a title of some sort. And man, I'm like, I count my blessings daily because many people know my story that, I didn't have children. It's not uncommon, but it happens. But that was a dream of mine, that I would be a mom. And, fast forward, I'm blessed with this miniature family. I've got a son and a daughter-in-law and twin grandbabies, and they're my life now. And my mom, who's recently widowed. And had I been out there running the roads and chasing racing and this title and everything else, I couldn't be the person they needed me to be as well.
Yeah. I think 2020 gave us all an opportunity to pause, to get very still, and to evaluate and be grateful for what we had right in front of us. I know I did. I in the workshop I did for Mama, I talked about 2020 being the best year I've ever had. I had my youngest daughter, who I hadn't seen in 13 years, come back into my life with my youngest grandbaby. And, all kinds of good things happened. And it was because I got very still. And I understand what you're saying. So when I had the accident and sort of delved into a dark place, it was partly PTSD. I had a traumatic brain injury too. And it was just depression. I loved my motorcycle, and it was another motorcyclist who hit me and caused this horrendous accident. And I couldn't get back on a bike for 11 months. And part of that was a physical healing. The other part was out and out fear of getting on that bike. And was fear a factor for you? Is that anything you're wrestling with, or confidence of doing it again, getting back on I know you're on a street bike. You led us through the gorgeous countryside up there in Pennsylvania to Gettysburg, but is there any fear of getting on the bike, on the drag strip?
Well, when you said that about the fear, that was part of my struggle in 2020 as well. I lost my stepdad of 30 years. I had, we got kind of shut down. I had a dream. I had this Top Fuel thing kind of lined up. I had a team put together. The team dissolved. So failure, disappointment, however you want to look at it. I had a sponsor set forward that was, paving the way for me. We were in a then he asked me to be a partner, and we were a partnership. And then all of a sudden that disappeared and went away. So fast forward to, a year ago now, I literally, you kind of talk about that PTSD and that dark place. My husband was like, well, the tracks are starting to open up a little bit. Do you want to go out? And I was like, yeah, I kind of got stuff going on and I'm not sure. And what happened was I finally admitted to him and myself come January was I had the fear of failing again, because I looked at the disappointments that took place as failures when reality they weren't. They were just experiences that I needed to travel through to get me to where I am today, which is amazingly wonderful place.
Yeah.
I mean, am I exactly where I want to be? No, but I leave it to my God to lead me and guide me, and I'll land where I'm supposed to. So
but it's a journey. It's a journey. And,
Absolutely.
I always say that if it weren't for bad decisions, I wouldn't have had a book to write. So I wouldn't have had a story to tell, and that is quite true, quite true. And I think as women, we need to share those stories because one of the reasons I wanted to start recording some of these conversations is that other women are struggling, and when one woman or two women share their story that, hey, I struggled, I went to this deep, dark place, and you say, I struggled, I went to this deep, dark place, it tells the other woman out there who's not talking about it that it's okay to struggle. It's okay to achieve, that it's okay to stop. It's okay to get back up there and achieve again. And I think I'm there as well with this next book I'm trying to write. It just won't come out. It just won't. And so why am I sitting here beating myself up over it? Just get out and do something else that, like this, that nurtures my creativity and also promotes things that we are doing. So I really appreciate you talking about that. Are you going to get on the track in 2021? I don't want to put you under any pressure, but just curious.
We continue to plan for it. I keep saying I'm not done yet. We've planned for 2 events that we ended up not going to for various reasons. So again, it's interesting. I've been one that truly lives for today, because tomorrow is never promised. And that goes back to the tragedy I had when I was, 6. But, and I probably do more of that today than I have ever done about, making memories. We could have been on the racetrack last week, but it was my daughter-in-law's birthday, and my gift to her is a week at the beach. And so we had this fabulous family vacation last week. And we missed an event. It was only 3 hours from us, which is really desirable, so we didn't have to trek around the country. But we still have a lot of things to put in place. My mom, as a widow, needs a lot of my time and attention, and patching up things that she needs to closure, that she needs to make with some things. And I really think that my goal is to get out there, but I also am very competitive. And so I struggle with, okay, do I go out there not being on the track for so long and be mediocre? Or do I just kind of, let's just get through this 2021, train up, late this year, get strong again, because that's the other thing I'm struggling with is my physical strength, and get out there for 22 and just go at it, again, powered, refreshed, and ready. So I don't know, really, Deb, I really don't know.
And it's okay not to know.
Yeah.
It is okay not to know. I lost your video.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay, we're back. And I, maybe you should write a book. Write a book.
I have lots of things to think about and lots of ambitions. And again, I'm just kind of taking things as they come. But, and I love the fact that, you are not the first woman that I've met that says I'm writing a book. And, that's just the matter of fact, I'm writing a book, and I'm like, man, it's kind of like me saying I'm going, I want to ride a top fuel bike and I want to, win a championship. And I'm like, do I deserve to have that much pressure on me? Or do I just live for today, knowing that I'm capable?
Yes.
But taking the universe as it delivers what's meant for my life. And so, yeah, so I'm not saying I won't ever write a book, and I'm not saying I won't, I really anticipate, I'll very likely be back on the track, before I'm 55. Let's just put it that way.
Well, good. And isn't that great that we can say that? Isn't that great that we can say that? Hey, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you joining me. I'm gonna stop our recording, but I want you to stay right there, okay? All right. Thanks a lot.